Hello, everyone, and welcome to our sixth episode of She Leads International. I'm looking forward to welcome our amazing guest today. But before I'm gonna call her on the stage, I would like to also ask to join me, Carmela. Carmela, who is a partner in crime in this initiative. So, and let's welcome Carmela here. Hello,
It's
Carmela.
not so much about crime than joy. Hi,
Yeah.
hi Natalia,
Hi,
how are
how are
you?
you?
I'm fine, like always. And you?
Good, good. Which layer do you like? This one or this one?
Oh, I like the blue one. It's
You like
very,
this one? Yeah?
yeah.
Okay, let's do this
It's
one
a little
today for
like,
a change, for a sake.
yeah.
Yes, so let's do this. How are you doing? Tell me.
I'm fine. I'm always fine.
Okay, that's
A
very
lot
good.
of work, but that's good. And
Yeah,
you?
that's good, good.
How's Prague?
Prague is fantastic, but it's actually winter is coming here. It's
Yeah.
been last year the same, yeah, like zero, 1 degree. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm the one who is like coming from and using much most of the time car, and I'm in the mid season. Sometimes it's really weird. Like you go out and everybody's like, what's wrong with you? Where's your head?" You know?
Yeah, you need one right
Yeah,
now. It's
yeah.
really cold. Yeah.
So I do like this one actually. The color is really cool.
Me,
Let's see
it's
who is
beautiful.
also joining us. So yeah, I can see already some comments popping up here. Hi everyone from
Hi,
Uzbekistan. Hi Sabina. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I would like to ask you who is watching us today, where are you coming actually from, and what's the weather like right now? And meanwhile, I will like to also invite on the stage our guest, Nicola Askham. So let's welcome her here. Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing? Okay, so
You're
you're
muted.
mute. Yeah, you need to unmute. Okay. Just and here we go. We have Julia from Berlin. So, how are you? Okay, Nicola.
Yeah, I'm good now. Sorry.
Hello.
Um,
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Equally cold here. We've actually got sleet this morning, which I think is depressing. Snow is pretty, sleet's just.
Mhm.
It's messy.
Yeah, yeah. I need to also change my how's it called? Not wheels, but
Tired.
the tires.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, getting too dangerous in the morning. Yeah, but who has
Slippery.
time? So I have to be here with you. So, okay, let's start. Nicola, tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get into the data space?
Yeah, so I'm known as the data governance coach. So I'm kind of in a little niche where I still do a little bit of consulting, but I spend a lot of my time training and coaching people, giving them the capability to do data governance themselves. I would love to say that when I was a little girl, I dreamt of doing data governance. I didn't actually. I hadn't even heard of it when I started doing it. It was totally an accident. I was a project manager for a bank, and we were doing a big data warehouse project, and we ended up realizing that some of the data wasn't very good, and we were really enthusiastic team, and we fixed some of the data,
Mhm.
but we didn't really realize, the business didn't thank us. The finance manager complained that the numbers in his report had changed, and me being really young and naive and going, but it's better, it really didn't win him over. And then, but that was just we'd migrated the data from one data warehouse to the new one. And of course, we didn't understand it all. We didn't go and fix the source of the problem. So when the next project came along and we moved the source system feeds to the new data warehouse, guess what? The data just deteriorated again. And I think it really frustrated me that that nobody seemed to care about the data, only me. And I used to tell my boss, and she'd say, "Shut up, Nicola, you're just a project manager. Get on with the next project."
Mhm.
But then a restructure meant that I was going to leave the team to go to a central pool of project managers. If I didn't stop being a project manager, and my bosses wanted me on the team. So,
Mhm.
and they said, make up a job. And I didn't know what to do, because nobody'd ever told me that in my career before. And I just
Mhm.
said, could I go and talk to people about who should care about the data? Because I'd had this light bulb moment, and it was really hard getting everybody else to realize that somebody should care about the data, not just me. Kind of thing. And I've been doing my best to convince people that they should care about the data for nearly 24 years now.
Wow.
In
That's
a,
a
in
long
a short,
time.
Yeah. It's a long time
And
and it's been a journey, I'm sure. Yeah, please come on.
It has, yeah. I've loved it though, and I think I'd say I wasn't very good at it in the early years, but I've had a lot of practice.
Actually, yeah,
that's, but I can imagine that at some point it gets really frustrating being in that job. So did you ever consider looking into different areas, maybe go back to project management or something entirely else?
That's a good question. I think that when I did project management, I thought I'd found my thing because I like order and sorting things out. And data governance is a lot like that. I think, yes, it's been frustrating. I think I did the right thing in leaving the bank because they said, I'd done the very first ever requirements that required that kind of thing for regulatory reasons. And then they all did that was flavor of the month, Nicola. You can go and be a business architect now. And I went, no, this is important. So I think I was lucky enough that I got connected with an amazing consultancy, which sadly no longer exists. But they took me on as their data governance expert. And I think you still get the frustrations. I still get the frustrations on behalf of my clients now. I go, oh, I know that's so frustrating when your stakeholders say that or won't do that. But I think the fact that I'm always moving, consultancy means that you don't get stuck. I think I used to get very frustrated in the job of the first time. And I think I've spoken to a lot of people over the years since who I think that it is that you just get to the end of your tether trying to kind of convince people that it's a good thing.
Fantastic. And actually, I would like to also connect it to a question. Carmela, you asked about what did you think about in the past, and maybe you've chosen a different road or something, right? But I think recently, well, at least that's what I remember, a couple of weeks ago, maybe you have published a post about exactly this recent days, old days. Then you started your data journey and how difficult it could be actually. So can you maybe share with your early challenges that you faced in the past?
I think a lot of the challenges, I think possibly me not being able to explain why data governance is needed. I was very much of the naive, all data should be perfect and we'll all live happily ever after. I think it's a kind of really bad way of selling data governance. And I persisted with that for too long. And I think also the trying to sell data governance is also something I've probably wasted a lot of time in the early years. Nobody wants to do data governance. Well, some of us do, but we're the people normally implementing it. Everybody else in the organization doesn't want to do data governance. They want what it will give them, what problems it will solve, what business value it will give. And I think I probably did. I messed that one up big time in the early days. I was too busy going, but you should do data governance. Really, it's really important. And people are going, yeah, I'm really busy. I've got to do my day job. Whereas if I could suddenly say, your day job takes you way longer because you have all this, the data's missing or the data's wrong, and you suddenly go, I can help with that. Then I realized that people started listening to me saying, oh, tell me more. How can you help me?
Did it improve when you compare today's situation to your early days?
Sorry, I missed the start of that.
Did that improve? So do you actually feel that people today are more aware of data governance and all the...
Mostly. So I think a lot more people are aware of it. And I think there's probably more supporters, but I still think that there are still a lot of people that, if anything, everybody's jobs are getting busier, aren't they? And then this data governance person turns up and goes, and I want you to do this as well. And you're going, yeah, why? So I think there is still that resistance. And I think it's probably with everything, and things are changing so quickly these days, that I think it's really important that anybody doing data governance really has to focus on the value and how it's going to help people deal with the change and all the changing technologies and things, rather than keep going, yes, but we should do data governance. It's not, you're just adding to the stress of the person that you're talking to. They're going to be defensive and stress you, and nobody wins in that one.
So there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of frustration, and people don't understand you. What do you actually enjoy about working with companies?
When you put it like that, I think it is challenging. I think people who are good at data governance are people who like a challenge. They're not people who come to work to put their feet up. But I think it's that real, I get a real sense of achievement. I find it really rewarding when I know I've solved a problem, when I know I've helped, deliver real value. And that moment when people suddenly go, oh wow, this is really important, and they have that light bulb moment, honestly, that is amazing. So yes, the challenge is I think always going to be there, but it is really rewarding when you actually know that you've made a difference. I don't do the sexy, exciting, glittery stuff when it comes to data, but I allow other people to do that by making sure we've got the right data and it's good enough quality.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Nicola. And well, actually, I would like to also welcome some people here. So let's see what is going on. And we'll need a bit of my glasses, honestly. I mean, it's becoming too frustrating. So, all right. So we have Ola here. Ola from, Spanish, of course. From 11 degrees on, well, actually 11 degrees for Galicia. Honestly, I would say also quite
It's
cold.
also cold, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, hi, you. So we have also Julia, who is from Berlin, and she's saying it's quite cold, as the same as in Prague. Okay. Also, we'll see who else is joining us. And guys, honestly, take the advantage. We have Nicola here, so we have a data governance guru. So
ask her anything.
exactly. So, and we will move on. So. Let's say maybe we'll start also with a question of when it comes to like based on all the experiences that you had and projects you worked on data governance, maybe you notice some common challenges, and patterns that kind of prevent them to do this project, efficiently. Can you share with us?
So I think the most consistent and obvious challenge is people. And I think people think that data governance is about the data, but it's not really. Ultimately, it is, but we have to bring the people. And I think any organization that doesn't address the culture side of things is not. They might have some limited success in solving a few data quality issues, but it's not going to actually solve any real problems. We've got to get the people realizing that data is an asset and that we've actually got to look after it the same way we manage our other assets, and not just kind of wait till everything goes wrong and go, oh, that wasn't the right data, or it wasn't good enough.
Right. Yeah, and so when it comes to people, of course, it's also about the communication. I suppose you talk about it as well, and covering a lot about that, right? So I recall we had the workshop with you. What was it, a year ago or something even more time passed?
About a year, yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
So I remember how people were talking about also the communication issue and so on. So that's something which we also have to not overlook, right? So Martin here. Martin, hello. Okay, relatively cold and very humid. That's great, but where are you? So
Galicia.
He's in
the
Galicia.
one. He's
Yeah,
Ola.
he's in Carmela.
Okay, that's fantastic. So that's why he didn't bother to write.
He
All right.
already did.
So we have a question. Let's go for the first question, Nicola. What approaches do you use to convince business people to take an ownership of data?
Good question.
I love that question. And I love the way that you've actually, Martin, you said, what approach do you use to convince them? Because I hate it when people go, I've assigned the data owners or I've allocated them. That is never going to win people over. And I think it is right. I think it's all about identifying the right people and then exactly what you've said, Martin, convincing people to take ownership. So my favorite way is to do conceptual data models. If I do one per business function, what it allows me to do is get people to start talking about the data that they use and produce in their function. And normally at the end of it, when we've had 90 minutes of talking about it, I normally say, is there any data that we've captured here that you wouldn't want anybody else in the organization to make any changes to without coming and asking you? And I think that is a lot more positive. And normally I love doing that at the early phases of initiative, because I can go, oh, Carmela, I haven't really got the role fully defined, because I don't want you scared that I'm going to give you like a 10 bullet points of responsibilities to go, but is there any data here that you wouldn't want Natalia changing without asking you, or vice versa? And it's amazing how much they then volunteer for, because we're actually saying, which of this data do you really care about? And the other thing I often do is, yes, ultimately, when I do write the formal role descriptions, I will use the word accountability when it comes to data owners. But when I'm talking to them, I'll be going, oh, Natalia, is your team wasting loads of time because this data's wrong? And you say, yes. Go, wouldn't it be great if I gave you that power that you could go and solve it and you can make the decisions? Because in my experience, quite often, I don't think people don't fix the data problems because they don't want them fixed. It's just that nobody knows. And I asked Natalia, can we fix this? And you go, I really don't know whether it's me. Carmela might get upset. And then we think it's somebody else in the wider organization. And so nobody does it. And we just carry on with the stress. So I think it's trying to explain the value of it. And a lot of people are then helping them understand that actually will solve problems. It will give you benefits, because when you start talking about here's your accountability and all the responsibilities of what you take on, I mean, honestly, that's really not going to sell it to people who are busy.
Yeah, very good. Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's a very actually nice response on this question. All right, so and we move on. So guys, again, if you have more questions, we are happy here to take it. All right. Okay, so maybe let's summarize. When it comes to the foundations, right? What do we need in order to kind of create a solid groundwork for a data governance project? So what do we need?
What do we need? I think first and foremost, we need to understand why we're doing it. And I think that helps us feed into this culture piece. Nobody, as I've already said, nobody's going to do it because it's a good idea, it's good practice, because they heard us three talking about it. It's got to be, what's in it for your organization? Why are you doing it? And yeah, in some industries, there is going to be regulatory requirement, but there's also so much business value and problems we can solve. So I think you do two things. You need to go look at your corporate strategy. What is it that your organization says it's going to do in the next 3 to 5 years? Look at the objectives and say, is our data good enough to achieve that? Because then when you're trying to convince senior stakeholders, you're already talking their language, because they're responsible for delivering that strategy. And if you're saying, I know you're responsible for reducing costs or whatever, then I can say, well, did you know we waste all this extra effort because of poor data? And if we do data governance, I can help you with that. Why would you not want to work with me? But if you're tasked with doing that and I sound like I'm talking about something distracting, I can quite understand you going, no, go away, Nicola. And I think that's the politest that I've heard. I've heard worse over the years. But I think the other thing we need to do is go and look for what I like to call my data quality horror stories. Everybody that's heard me talk, I talk about them a lot. But what has gone wrong? It can be things in the past. But what has gone wrong because the data was wrong, or it was missing, or or something, and start bringing some of these to life. I had one client a few years back who did a brilliant picture. She realized how much money that they were wasting over something, and she found a picture of a huge pile of dollar bills on fire, and she did a slide with that and the actual number at the top of how much this mistake had cost them. And I was at the room where she tested it the first time, and she'd asked me if I could come in this particular day to support some meetings with some particularly challenging stakeholders, and they were not signing up for data governance. And after having kind of advised her on what I thought she ought to do, I mean, she did the slides, they were far better than I would have done. And then you could see this woman was like typical, sitting back going, yeah, gosh, she's going on about this data governance thing again. And this slide came on and she went, what? Kind of thing. And it was like really obvious that she went, hang on a minute, you've got me now. So I think it's these data quality horror stories bring it to life. And and I really feel they have to be your own horror stories, because, I've tried it in the earlier years and I've seen other people do it, is that, I can go, Natalia told me her company, they had this problem. And you're going, yeah, but we don't do the same thing, or we do the same thing, but we're not like them, we're better, or we've got different systems. Or you're losing people. So they have to be your own internal issues to become your horror stories.
I like that very much. So
Carmela, one thing, I just a comment, because I really loved it. So, and I wanted to say that it's like in life, about learning, experience, and probably it's, of course, you learn better when you do your own horror story, right? And you leave it, when rather somebody like Carmela says to me, what, it didn't work. And I'm like, maybe it will work, because I will try it, I will do better, right? And so that's very interesting. And but we still, I think we should talk about it. We should not talk about and concentrate on the success stories. We should talk about the horror stories, because I think success stories are not always working. At least I believe it's much more like, let's say, efficient when it comes to our conference, for instance, at Think Linkers, talking about like what went wrong rather than what was successful. So people are more like, the focus is there when you hear how much money you spend, or time or people, and a lot of waste. So.
Oh, I think so. And I think I would always rather wave the carrot and everybody comes and do it because it's wonderful. But I've been told so many times over the years, but we're a really successful company and we've never had this data governance thing. Why do we need it now? And I think that's why you really need those real concrete examples to say, I think you've been successful in spite of your data. And if you actually had your data better, think how even more successful you could be. I think people get complacent, particularly if the company is doing well at the time anyway.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Sorry.
I really like that. No, it's good. I also really like it because I believe it's helping companies kicking off data governance initiatives. So for most companies who haven't already started this journey, data governance and all the data literacy, data culture thing is a very, very vague concept, and they can't really grasp what it means and say, okay, but is there a one-fits-all solution? But there is not. So these individual horror stories I really like that idea. So just moving on to our next question. So what I like very much is, one of your advices is to keep it simple, hence the title of today's episode. So, but isn't that very challenging for such a huge and complex task? How?
Yes, it is. But I think what you have to do, it's almost like it's taking this like the minimum viable product kind of approach to things, because I mean, I did it in the early days. I still see people make the same mistake where they spend months going around, they talk to you, they ask all your problems, and then they design a framework that's going to sort it for you. And then we go and then we go to the next person, and then we go, oh, no, they've got a unique problem. I'll add some more detail to it. And you suddenly get this really complicated approach and framework. I mean, I've seen diagrams that honestly, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to data governance, I hope, after all this time. And I've looked at it and gone, really? That is so off-putting. And I can read it and understand it, but I think it's way too complicated. So I think it's really important that we make it simple. And so I always kind of go back to, what's the common denominator? What can I do that will start adding some value? Because yes, we will add some detail as we go forwards, but let's make it easy to do, so that as we start very, very simple, it's hard for you to say, I'm not going to do that. But I love to think, I often like to do, I always like to introduce a data quality issue resolution process early in a data governance initiative, because that allows us to cherry pick some issues that we can fix relatively quickly and shout about, going, yay, look what we've done. We've solved some problems. But I might come to Natalia and say, this is how I want it done. And you go, oh, great. Yep. I'll tell my team. We'll do that. And then I come to you, Marcella, and you say, Carmela, sorry. And you say, oh, I know, but I really don't want my team coming and telling you directly, because I want to know what's going on and why I wasn't aware of these things before. And I say, okay, that's a slight flex to the process, but it's not breaking the process. So I just say, yeah, for you, that's fine. You handle that, and we do that. And so over time, yes, we get slight variations, but I'll be honest, I've been asked that variation multiple times. A few months in, you'll go, I'm fine. They can tell you directly. I don't want to keep getting all these issues told to me. But it's that kind of, it's doing it and adding the detail when you have to, when what you've designed doesn't work, rather than trying to cover every eventuality at the start. It makes it almost like too hard for people to get their head around. So therefore they just go, oh, that's too hard to do for now. We'll just move that to one side and carry on as normal for now.
Right.
Thank you. All right. I would like to maybe move to something beside data. So is there anything that you also enjoy except solving the data governance issues?
So I do enjoy lots of things.
Yeah.
One of my favorite hobbies is singing. So I love
I
singing.
remember that.
Cool.
Yes.
What was it? 12 episodes with Scott Taylor. Do you remember? I think you were in one of those.
Yes, I am. I am the fairy godmother in Scott's Data Puppets, and I've done a couple of collaborations with Chan Kai Feng, which I love. So they're the only kind of real occasions that my work and my hobbies, my personal life, come together. But I love that. That is great fun and good
So
way to let off steam after a busy day doing data governance.
actually, it's kind of releasing, right? You're stressed, then you sing and everything. I think it's some sort of meditation in a way, even. So I do not sing, but I understand and I appreciate all the people who can. I believe that you need really, like, you have to be a kid in order to really work on the voice. You can get into some maybe level, decent level, if you start right now and you're, in my age, for instance. But I think the best, of course, to start when you're a small kid.
Yeah, I mean, my singing teacher believes anybody can sing.
I
A lot
know.
of it is techniques and it's muscles. So I probably should go to the gym and work my other muscles as hard as I work my vocal cords. But
But it's
So
not
maybe,
that much fun.
so maybe it's a thing about, like all the art, because when it comes to paintings as well, many people say, oh, you're so talented, Natalia. And I'm like, well, effort is 95% of my paintings, so and the 5% probably of creativity and the talent, so probably with the singing is the same.
yeah, and I think it's you're right. I think when you have to fully immerse yourself and concentrate on something, then I think that is
Get
really,
in the
really
flow.
good for you. Yeah, exactly. It's that getting in that flow. You can't paint, I can't sing if I'm too busy thinking, oh, that data only this morning, really. I'll be singing the wrong notes very loudly and embarrassing myself. So, I have to really focus, and I think that's really, really good for you.
Yeah, that's very nice. Anything else, but except like singing as well? What do you enjoy doing?
Oh, I bake a lot. I garden, and I'm not gardening now. I'm a fair weather gardener, so not much more gardening for the rest of this year. That's for certain.
That's very, very nice. And Carmela, by the way, what do you do on the free time?
What free time?
Free time. No, wait a second. I
What?
don't know. You read the books, right? Like,
Yeah, I love to read. That really calms me down. It's so chilling, and yeah, I love it. I love to read. I also love to cook. I used to do a lot of sports, and I try to catch up with that, but it's really hard. And yeah, take walks. I used to play the violin, but I was really small for 7 years. I have a hand pen, and I tried to stick to it, but I really lost I lost that track as well. And I bought a guitar. So I really always wanted to go into music, but it's nothing that really sticks. So
Well,
Martin has a comment, but that's cool.
yes, he
My
does.
dad couldn't sing in tune, but he thought he could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, and maybe we also have some conversations going here. So sorry, here we go. So yeah, so just a bit of a comment on what we have discussed, in here. And I suppose Martin also is responding in there. So it's really nice to be like seeing some conversations going in the chat as well. So I'm happy with you getting inspired. And please, again, I will not stop repeating, ask questions. So yes. All right. So we will maybe go on. Carmel, do you have some other questions? I just wanted to,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah, so getting back to our topic now. So say a company really succeeds in building this whole data governance framework. Everyone knows how to deal with data. Everything is crystal clear. What now? So is your work done?
Oh, I love the question. I don't think anybody's ever got to that stage. If they have, please tell me. I think I think data governance is definitely not a project, which I think is possibly what you were angling for. It's not a we'll do this and then we finish. And I hate it. I haven't seen it actually for a little while, but periodically somebody will put on LinkedIn a comment about data governance being a marathon and not a sprint. And I kind of go, well, I get the marathon versus a sprint being it's a long-term thing, but even a marathon has a finish line, and data governance shouldn't have a finish line. So it's always going to need to evolve and change and grow with your organization. When you look at like these maturity curves for capability, I've never really seen anybody get above like the threes, maybe the 3.9 or whatever, but nobody ever gets to 4 and 5 because they're busy doing all their work. And then the company changes, they restructure, or they merge with another organization, or a new regulation comes in. And then it's almost, you're always reinventing the framework. Maybe not, you're not going back to the beginning, but you're just adapting. And what do I need to do now? So I don't think our job is ever done.
Yeah,
which is a good thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yes. And you've been working over 20 years, right? So here we go. So we have one more question from Maxim. Does data governance need a remake, even just to encourage greater interest and involvement?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think we are blessed with the best job title for what we do. I mean, data governance sounds boring and dull, or it gives the idea that we're walking around with big sticks beating everybody up, which we're not. We're actually quite often when I'm doing training courses, I have a slide that says what data governance is not, because as you know, people get confused. Is it data security? Is it data privacy? And I always put the Big Brother icon on there as well, and because I always want to make the point that data governance is not actually Big Brother. We are not looking over your shoulder, looking at everything you do, but what it actually is, if there's going to be any monitoring of data, it's because you've asked me. You say to me, so Martin says, Nicola, this data is causing me so much pain in my day-to-day work. I really need you to monitor it so I know it's wrong before I use it in my processes. And I go, great. But it's not us and the central data governance team going, oh, Martin, we're going to look at your data. Kind of thing. So it's all down to the people. So I think there's that kind of connotation is hard. We always need to make that point. But I know quite a few organizations that I've spoken to recently, some of them my clients, have tried renaming data governance as called data enablement in their organizations. And I think that is having some degree of success, because that is what we do. We're trying to facilitate the company being more successful through the data being better, because the word governance makes it sound like we're locking it all down. Yeah. Whereas actually enablement, I think, sounds really good. I've spoken to a few people who are called data excellence. I'm not so convinced that data excellence will be, I think that's possibly going back to me in the earlier days of it could have the connotations that all data must be excellent. And it's going to be so hard to get data excellent that we won't have time to actually do our day jobs because we're trying too hard to make the data perfect. So I think we could do with some rebranding and things at times, but I think it depends on your organization and the culture as to what works. So I'm always very keen to say, you don't have to call it data governance. Don't call it anything silly, but if you've got a good name that will work, and I've been called a data quality manager in the past. And I wasn't to begin with. I got really a bit kind of, why are they insisting on calling me a data quality manager? I'm a data governance manager. But the more mature you get in data governance, you do start doing the data quality stuff. And I often think the data governance and data quality activities should be done by the same team. And you actually go, people kind of understand intrinsically what data quality is, and they think it's something they want. So if you call it data quality and just do data governance under the guise of that, if it works, why not?
Yeah, very good. And he agrees with you, So we also have one more comment from Karima. I'm not sure if you know her. Okay, probably, yeah. So that's very nice. You see, Karima is actually really one of those data people that are obsessed about marathons, and I eat all the time, but she's running somewhere. She also ran a couple of times, and she mentioned that she loves coming to Prague. I was also thinking of one day to actually run, at least here in the city, So I mean, it's easy. I don't need to even to travel. one day maybe I will do it. I do actually enjoy rhyming. I think we discussed about it, right, Carmela, at some point of our episodes. So
Yeah.
I know many people do not like it. I love it.
Me, no.
No, not your stuff.
I don't, really not. I don't get the point.
Yeah, but yeah, like, so I like this comparison to the marathons for sure. That was really nice. And yeah, Karima would definitely. Oh, we have one more even. We have one more, so that's a long one.
Oh, I love that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can understand. I mean, a lot of the time I would prefer to educate people that data governance isn't a bad title, but I think, it depends on the organization. I think this is why data governance is so hard, because I can say this is the best way to do it and it works for you, and then it doesn't work for the next organization. And it's all down to the actual culture of the organization as well, can make a huge difference.
Yeah, so we also have one more comment, Martin.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been there too, Martin. I like that.
Yeah, we have also have one more here from Monga. So yeah, would you agree?
I hate disagreeing, but I'm afraid not, because risk, compliance, and infosec are teams that are known for going around with a big stick and making people do things. And I don't think that's how we should sell data governance. We should. So they are absolutely allies, and they're always teams I work with. But we're a different kind of team. So they go around saying, these are the rules, you have to do it. We don't set the rules. We get our business users to set the rules. So we actually have to go out and work very hard with our business stakeholders to get them to understand the value and to want to do this. No big stick waving. It doesn't actually deliver anything that's valuable in the long run.
Yeah. Okay, that's agreed. So let's see what else. So, guys, you're talking there and chatting, so we'll be, of course, putting it on here, and we move on. So I would like maybe to, first of all, say that I'm very impressed by your, organization, time, discipline, and everything that you do. Because you're having also your own podcast, as I recall, right? Still doing it, right?
Oh yes, definitely.
Okay, fantastic. I haven't been there, so why I'm not invited?
Yeah, we'll have to rectify that one.
So one day we should definitely get up.
Very subtle.
Yes. You're in life, it's life, so you can. All right then. So you do that. You also come to workshops. You've been in our workshops. You've done online, offline. I know that you have been around. So a lot of work, courses, right, and helping out to a lot of companies. So how do you actually keep? What's your secret of time management and so on?
I think it possibly is why I ended up being a project manager when I was good at it. I do love a list. I like to-do lists, and I have various to-do lists and planners and things. And to be fair, some days, some weeks, I have way too much on, and I live by alarms on my phone, because if I've got half an hour between calls, the chances are I will dive in to get something done, and then I suddenly, oh my gosh, it's 5 minutes past the hour, and I was supposed to be on a call. So I tend to, on busy days, I set alarms 10 minutes before, so I can go and get a cup of coffee and stretch and get away from my desk for just a couple of minutes. So I'm very regimented, and I think sometimes too regimented, I think sometimes, but I do like a good plan, and I have a planner that plans out the next few months, and then the detailed stuff's in the calendar, and
I hear you. So it's like you also have a daily plan, weekly plan, monthly plan, 5 years plan, right?
Absolutely. And then although everything is digital, I love digital. On my desk right beside me, I have a daily planner. So I have a to-do list, but my to-do list, it was under 30 today, so that was good. So my digital to-do list goes 30 things, and you go, yeah, right, that's not going to happen. But I go, what are the top 3? What are my priorities that absolutely have to get done? And I put them on that, and then all my meetings. And I think that process of going through that at the beginning of the morning really helps me focus on what I have to get done. Because it's very easy. I get an email from you and I go, oh, Natalia, what's Natalia want to go? And I'm reading that, not doing what I should do.
Something.
So that kind of, it helps me be a bit stricter because I'm always distracted by the next exciting thing. So it helps. That planning at the start of like the day, the week, and the month kind of thing really helps me focus on the right things.
Yeah, very good. Thank you so much for sharing. And
We should do a session with about productivity tools. That would be great.
Yes.
I will love that.
I would too.
Yeah, why did you think I asked? To be honest, I plan at least to start writing some, like a post about it, and sharing my own kind of also secrets. Let's say I have so many things also that I have to do over the days, and I'm also the same, Nicola. I'm writing all the time, digital, on the paper, plans and everything. I'm all about the plans, and sometimes it's even difficult for me to actually kind of stop and say it's time to, chill. It's time to chill.
True.
Yeah, so that's another thing as well. We definitely will share it, and I think it will be also definitely we will discuss what you have mentioned about it. So I did wanted to say something, and it's just Carmela, if you have something.
Yeah, I have one last question from my side. So in this community series, we are talking a lot about the female view and standpoint of things, and I just wanted to know if you feel that there's a different coaching approach when you're coaching women and men, or is it just the same?
Actually, I've never reflected on that before. That is a really great question. I think there possibly is. If I think to like my male clients versus my female ones, I think a lot of my female ones have the classic imposter syndrome. And so if I come and try and convince you to do data governance and you go, no, that's wrong, you go, oh no, she must be right then, I'm wrong, and it's kind of very real. And so I think a lot of not all, because that would be a very sweeping statement, but I think perhaps for females it leans more to building their confidence that they are right, that it is the right thing. I think some more of the men that I've coached, perhaps our conversations are more almost like them thinking out loud and then me validating their thinking, because I get all genders doing that on calls, because I think we're so busy in our day jobs that we don't have time to sit and think things through. So I think quite often in the coaching that happens. But I would say perhaps it's more confidence boosting with more females, and then the men. I think men are naturally more confident and they're more willing to do the fake it till you make it. Where that's what they say, very broad brush statement, and there are exceptions to that. But
did you know maybe culturally like differences? Because I think you work anyway, not just this British, right? So you work globally. So is there any also difference?
Oh yeah, no, very, very much. And I actually love that. I love working in different countries and different cultures. And one that always makes me laugh is I've worked. I worked for a Scandinavian consultancy, the first one I worked for, and we had companies in all the Scandinavian countries. And I'd always, up until then, lumped all the Scandinavian countries together. They're all the same, but they're not. They're very different cultures. And if ever I have anybody come on my training course that's Swedish, I go, oh God, you're never going to be able to do data governance. And they go, why? And I went, because Sweden takes democracy absolutely literally, and nobody does anything until everybody agrees. And so, if we've already discussed how hard it is to get people to do data governance. So I've got the greatest respect for people who manage to get Swedes to do data governance, because you've really got to go overboard on selling this concept to absolutely everybody in your organization. So I think that one's a really big one. And then I did some training. I was supposed to go to Singapore, but it was just when COVID hit, so I never got to go there. But I did it virtually. And there were people from Japan and from South Korea also on the course. Whereas I think Singapore, the people from Singapore that were Singapore-based were perhaps more Western mindset. But I'm saying, you've got to go and talk to your senior stakeholders and bring them on board. And they were kind of looking absolutely horrified. We can't do that. We're not allowed. I have to talk to my boss, who talks to his boss, who talks to his boss, and now everything's getting lost. It's like the Chinese whispers, isn't it? It's getting lost in translation. So by the time the senior stakeholder gets the message, it's not what I said, and they're just not allowed to. So I think you're quite right. Culturally, the different styles in different countries can make it harder to do data governance, and it's definitely something you've got to consider. And global organizations, it's really challenging, because you might have to sell data governance and manage it in different ways in different parts of the world.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. For instance, I didn't think about that when it comes to Swedish, so which is, it's really interesting how it is, the difference it is between the cultures, of course. Yeah. All right. So double force for Swedish people when it comes to data governance. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting. So we have also somewhere in the chat people discussing between each other. So let's also see what is going on. All right. Well, it's up to you, Nicola, if you have something to say about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's it's a reflection in that we can't use the same approach. Even we might have all of our company in one country, so that we've got a general culture that's the same. And I think you're right. Different parts of an organization will need different. So yeah, so Baptiste has obviously got experience with e-commerce people, but I think that's right. You've got to work out how to talk about it to everybody, and how you describe it to one part of your organization is not going to be the same as somebody else's.
Right. Thank you so much. And of course, Martin here also, giving us some remarks on this. So which is
so yeah, I think you're right, Martin, though, about I like the data governance is about the data being good enough, but I think it's not just good enough, it's also got to be the right data, because I see a lot of mistakes are made, and it's not that the data was poor quality, it just wasn't quite the right data. I was having this chat with somebody, it was only yesterday, one of my clients, where we were saying it wasn't the data wasn't wrong per se, but it had not ever been collected for the purpose that somebody was trying to use it for. And because it wasn't collected for that purpose, it wasn't quite right. And therefore, they were not getting the answers or the results that they were expecting. So I think the good enough is we have to understand what it is. And then, good enough. We don't have to have data perfect. And I think that's good. And that's how I often actually use that phrase. I say, what makes this data good enough for you to do your job? You want to know what the approach is? A single source of the truth. I love that you're a contrarian when it comes to it. I would say, firstly, I go, do we need it? It's kind of so yes, it's the answer. But I think what people say, I have a single source of the truth, but there could be a case of having more than one. And it could be perfectly correct. So even you take a really simple thing, we know that a single source of the truth for months is that they start on the 1st of the month and end on anywhere between the 28th, 30th, 31st kind of thing. But we know that's a month. This is great, unless you're in finance. And finance probably ends on the 15th of the month because of the reporting that they do. And yet we all know that, and we can't argue that we should have a single version of the truth, because finance teams will go into a meltdown over that. So I think we do often need a single version of the truth. We need like a single view of our customers. There are things that we do need it. I think we need to understand where sometimes a slightly different view is acceptable and make sure that is captured correctly in the definitions. And I would say I've seen a lot of people waste a lot of time and cause frustration because they say we should have a common definition and we must all agree on this. And it's only when you actually listen to the people talking, you're going, but we're never going to agree it because they're talking about slightly different things. And it might be very nuanced, the difference, but there is a case for having it slightly different. And that's where, the value of having our data definitions comes in. But sometimes we need to change the name. So I was in an insurance company years ago now, and I had two actuaries arguing over what a large claim was. And they were using jargon I didn't understand. I literally was sitting in between them, and they were either end of the table. I felt like I was an umpire at a tennis match. I kept going like this. They weren't listening to each other. And I suddenly realized they suddenly said something that sounded a bit more like English and not weird and wonderful jargon. And I suddenly went, excuse me, are you actually talking about the same thing? And they both kind of sat up and went, and they listened to each other, and we agreed that they weren't. And there were different ways of calculating a large claim, and that was allowed. And what we actually did was change the title. So from then on, that organizational had an actuarial large claim and an operational large claim. So we didn't just document the definitions, we actually called the names of that data different so that people could understand very quickly and easily that there would be more than one version of it. So sometimes more than one version is needed, but we just need to find ways of documenting and making it very clear what they are.
Yeah.
And these documentations have to change, right? So just for example, think about all the brands that really try to establish a good data governance by having great master data for the products. But then there is the enrichment data. So you have like product descriptions, how you want to really present your products on the product detail pages or in, Instagram, and everything they worked for so hard is now falling apart because of AI. So now everyone goes to ChatGPT or don't know what LLM and asks for what's the right product for me when I want to have this and that. So all the data they prepared so far are not in the right shape to really fit those purposes. So this has to change over time, and so it's going to
Yes.
be a huge problem for many
I think
management.
you're highlighting where AI it is forcing people to understand that they need their own internal data good enough to perhaps use AI. But I think that's a really interesting example of actually you might think it was all going well internally, but if AI is not picking up your product because you haven't got the right descriptions, the right terminology, then it's not going to be shown back to people who are going, show me the perfect whatever kind of music stand for practicing my music, and I need to be able to do this, 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 and it doesn't find your product because it wasn't quite, it didn't have the description that it was.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a really interesting case.
Yeah, thank you so much, ladies, to also share your insights. Just like to kind of summarize also on that, on the topic of cultural differences. I think it's a good one. So
that'd be very crowded meeting rooms, Martin.
yeah. So we have one more question. Here we go.
Absolutely. Data governance doesn't work if it's not owned and done by the business. Data governance, the role of a data governance specialist is not to be an expert in all the data in the organization. It is to help design, implement the framework, and then support it. So there's always going to be a role for data governance specialists, but their role is not to own the data. Because how can we understand the data across a whole organization? It has to be in the hands of the business that know, why do we have that data? What do we use it for? What can we and can't we do with it? So I've never seen centralized data governance, that is often called, be successful.
Yeah. Okay, and here we go. Yes, indeed. So yes, I'm a big fan of and supporter of information.
Modeling just for the fun of it.
Good. Having fun here. What can I say?
think that's. I think Karima did a comment before that, actually.
Yes. There was a.
So I think that's coming. So
yeah, I would like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree, Karima. So if there's any data modelers watching this, I totally apologize, because my conceptual data models are very high level. To prevent exactly what you're saying is that, and I've done them jointly with a friend, and he really is a proper data modeler. And I keep going, no, too detailed, Alex. No, we don't want that. No, we don't want that. So I think I got introduced to the concept years ago, and I went along to somebody else's workshop, and I just realized that these business people were talking about their data in a way that I hadn't been able to when I just turn up and say, can I talk to you about your data? It allows, the whole process allows people to start thinking about it. And so I just kind of got to the end of that very first one and went, and I did exactly what I said. Do you think you own any of this data? And to my surprise, they volunteered to own half the data on this data model. And some of that same data, I'd been asking them the week before if they owned it, and they said no. So I think it's a lot better. So I've been raving about conceptual data models. All my clients know this, because I nag them until they give in and let me do them for them. But I had a client, I've been meaning to create a course for years, but I had a client earlier in the year who said, I haven't got enough budget to pay you to come in to run all the conceptual data model workshops for me, but I think I've got enough if you could come and train the team. And I went, actually, you know what? This is a course I've wanted to do for years. I've got so many notes. I've been collecting all these things, but never had the time. But it's amazing when a client's saying, will you do this? You go, oh, now I'll find the time. And I absolutely loved doing it for them earlier in the year. They gave me great feedback. And so I just decided I was going to try running it. So next week we're doing that. So that was very exciting. Sold out. I am absolutely surprised, but thrilled, because I've been honestly trying to tell people how easy they are and how valuable they are to drive engagement and then help you plan the next phases of your data governance. So yeah, it really is such a valuable tool if you get, I think, as Karima's comment was saying, if you get it at the right level of granularity. This is going to be very high level, and I have very few rules for them, but one of them is, no, that's too granular. I had somebody yesterday say something. I went, isn't that an attribute? And they went, what? And I went, a data field. That's one data field. And they went, yeah. I went, you're not putting it on your data model, sorry. Well, if you kind of made a logical grouping of data, what would that fit in? And then they went, customer details. I went, right, okay, we'll have a customer details little box, but we're not having customer phone number, email, first name, last name, but we're going to have everything together and call it customer details, because the purpose of this is just to get this overview of all the data, not a complete list of attributes.
I'm very interested in the concept, and as you probably know, we always produce articles out of these episodes. And if you don't mind, I would like to send you a couple more questions about this concept, so you can just
it's one of my favorite
some notes.
One of my many favorite data governance topics, but yeah, I really do think they are very, very valuable.
Okay, ladies, it was super enjoyable. I'm just a bit scared. My water is like finishing. It means that I'm supposed to be talking a lot. So, and I can see that in 4 minutes I will have a call with my team. So I think everybody will need to move forward. But it was absolutely fantastic to have you here.
It was a blast. Thank you so much.
A couple of minutes maybe. So what do we have here? Martin. Martin is very active today, which is I really appreciate. Thank you. So
it's probably more of a statement than a question, but yes, I think finding a way to document and hold things is absolutely where we add our value. I'm not an expert in all the different tools. I tend to do the people side of things, but I do think the tools can be great enablers when you're in large and complex organizations.
Yeah. That's very good, but like I wanted to. It was such a smooth, ending. But never mind, Martin. Thank you for an hour.
You have to let go.
It never goes by plan. So let's chill. All right. So I will just get back to what we were discussing. We were discussing about, and you mentioned a bit of what's your future, projects, and you are very enjoying and this. So maybe that's the last kind of a question from my side and Carmela's side as well. Like, is there anything exciting in for 2026? Any like amazing projects that you are planning to?
The thing I'm the most excited about is I actually have a book coming out, and that's coming out early February. And I'm still I'm definitely still in the imposter syndrome and going, oh my God, I can't believe I wrote a book. It was very exciting. It was hard work, but I've loved pulling together everything that I've learned over the years. So yeah, I'm very excited about that coming out next year.
We are.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Congratulations to this. So Karima, also thank you for being with us during this interview and for your questions, for your activity. Fantastic. And maybe one day, Karima, you should be here on the stage.
Oh, definitely. Yes, to get Karima on the stage.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So in that case, well, I would like to finish it with my usual phrase when it comes to the She Leads International. So thank you so much, Nicola, for your amazing insights and sharing with us so much of your experience and stories, horror stories, success stories. And it's always a pleasure working with you, collaborating with you. I really hope we will see each other in 2026 again, maybe in Prague, right? So if not offline, there is always online. So, and I would like to finish it and if she leads, and in this case, Nicola leads, we all move forward. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And if you have some more questions, please feel free to anyway write in the comments. I'm sure once we will have all time and you rest a bit, we will get back to these questions and answer to this.
Excellent. It was lovely talking to you both. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. And have a good day there, ladies.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.